Hello and welcome everyone to the Friday, June 10th edition of the Contributor Comms, still currently called Upstream Marketing sub-project of the Kubernetes Special Interest Group for Contributor Experience. A reminder, we do have a code of conduct, which basically says to be respectful of your fellow attendees and speakers and generally be excellent to each other. And to start off today, we like to open up with an opportunity for any new folks to introduce themselves and let us know why you're here, what you're interested in doing with us. Also, let me put in a link to the notes. If anyone has any items that they want to add in to the notes for us to cover, please go ahead and do that and add yourself in as an attendee if you can, if you haven't already. All right. So any new folks, would you like to introduce yourselves? Totally optional. Okie dokie. If you want to at any point, feel free to do so in the chat or to pop in and we'll chat. All right, so let's get started today. I also thought I might post the team charter in the chat. I'm thinking lately that maybe that's a good idea in case any new folks are here and want to learn what our group is. So they can go to the charter and find out. So I'll do that as well.
Could put it in the calendar event.
That's true. We could. It is at the top of the notes doc. So it is in there somewhere. Okay. But putting it in the event is a good idea. Should consider that. I'm going to put that in the notes. Where should I put that in the notes? Discussion. Add charter link to calendar invite. Anyway. Updates and big wins. Pernaswar and Ray, you had an update.
Yeah, this is Ray. I added this for Pernaswar. The next SIG Spotlight blog, the interview with the SIG Docs co-chair is scheduled for next Friday.
Yay. So y'all are going to do a live interview?
Yes. We weren't exactly sure if it was going to be like an async Google Doc or live interview, but want live interview and possibly also an async Google Doc as well.
Yeah, folks have done it both ways. We often recommend doing the async Google Doc because then you have all of the responses written and it's easier to write things from that. Sometimes when you do a recorded vocal interview, we've had in the past that get kind of delayed just because people can't take the time to write down everything that happened in the recording. But then again, the other way also has delays and issues because a lot of the time people are busy, so they don't fill out the Google Doc and you got to remind them multiple times. So both ways have their ups and downs. So whatever works for the folks doing the spotlight is what it's all about. Cool. I'm excited that that's moving forward. If you all need any help, do let us know. And you have another one, Ray, as well?
Yes, I did finish reviewing the blog post for the APAC Meet Our Contributors for that is done. That wasn't in a HackMD. I'm not sure if it's a pull request yet, but.
Lovely. I know we mentioned that on the ContribEx meeting as well, that was in progress. Good to hear. And I think we'll come across that in our table too, and I'll update it there as well. And I also wanted to mention Frederico is working on a SIG Spotlight as well. Would you like to give an update on that?
Yes. So I've targeted SIG storage mainly because there's a lot of SIG storage caps in this release cycle, and I use the Google Docs async route, and I think that next week we will have something up and running. I liaison with Xiang Jing, I think, which is the co-chair of the SIG storage, and I think I have 90% of the questions there already answered. Doing async questions is interesting, but in a certain way it's limiting, because there's a lot of stuff that you get in the reply that should promote a follow-up question as well. So I'm on that process, but they were extremely supportive and very quick in addressing it. So I think that I will have the Google Doc interview stage done for our review somewhere in the next week. And I will share in the interim. I can share in the channel the Google Docs document that I have. Actually, yeah.
You don't have to. You can if you want to. The way this process usually goes is you do the interview. You use that interview to build a draft of what you think the blog post should be. And then you share that with the group for review.
Fair enough.
And then once that's been through like a rough early round of review, then we go ahead and make the PR, which helps us to make sure that the PR is minimal in terms of the changes required, which is always good.
I'll do that then. Yeah.
But it's all, like I said, it's whatever works for people, really. So whatever makes people feel comfortable. If you want more eyes on it, you're welcome to ask for them. But there's a suggestion. Cool. I'm very excited that a couple folks are working on SIG Spotlights. And I think Avinash also was interested in doing one. Am I remembering that wrong? It was Atharva.
It was Atharva.
I'm sorry. I found it in the notes. I need to chat with Atharva too and see if he's all set up. Also another update on that, which I think is a nice thing. Well, I was helping Frederico with explaining the process and the concept and everything. I also went ahead and made a PR to our repo with some additional instructions about the SIG Spotlight blog post creation process. Just the usual notes that I give to people, like you can do vocal or async blog or interview, and we recommend doing async, and we do a round of reviews with the markdown document before doing the PR, which we usually recommend with HackMD or Google Docs. So those kinds of basic concepts we're putting into a page in our repo is the idea. If I can get that PR done, which I think it's in a good state, I just have to actually deal with Git, which is fun. So that's an update from me for SIG Spotlight process. Awesome. Any other updates or big wins that people want to throw out before we move into new items? Cool. We'll move into new items then. And Bob, you've got something for us?
So I don't know the current status of this, but something that's currently up for discussion is the moving of the enhancements freeze deadline. Ray, have you been actively involved in that discussion?
Yeah, nothing's official yet. I will let upstream marketing know if anything is official. We have there's some discussions. There's an issue created for this specific release for the enhancement deadline possibly being moved. Then yeah, I'll update the group here.
Yeah, the biggest thing, as soon as that decision is made, we will want to, utilize all avenues to advertise that change.
Yeah, we're looking at possibly a 1 week delay, a 1 week postponement. I don't know if it's official yet, or we haven't had the official, and it should actually come from the release team as official announcement first, and then we should social boost after it's been communicated.
Yeah, it's more so like just to try and essentially as soon as it happens, to boost it as much as possible with both Twitter and mass Slack messaging.
I'll try to get an update right now.
It looks like it's still, I'm looking at the issue. Doesn't look consensus on it, but still Maybe, yeah, it looks like still +1 for 1 more week.
Okay. So possible 1 week delay, not yet official. Contributor comms should watch out for that and be ready to boost as much as possible as quickly as possible. That a good summation?
Yep.
Cool. And that will need to be timely. If they only get an extra week, then we should definitely make sure that we get that communicated as quickly and as broadly as possible. I did notice, I think Tim Hawken was mentioning that on Twitter.
Yep.
People were talking about CFPs also having that issue.
Yeah, between KubeCon, enhancements freeze, CFP reviews, and
Yeah,
it's just a lot. And
always.
yeah, having been on the release team for quite a few times previously, it's always hard. Like
the schedule is always awkward. It always hits
never perfect.
Weirdly
Yeah.
with KubeCon.
you're always going to piss off at least one group of people.
Yeah. Such as scheduling with large groups, right?
Yep.
Just the way it works. Okie dokie. So campaigns in progress, open AIs. I added the note about maybe adding a charter link to the calendar invite. Kind of a cool idea. I like that. Feel like a lot of the time new folks join and they're like, what is this group? I don't really know. So maybe that could help. Which we're happy to explain, of course, but also maybe we could add some useful information there. So we're going to go ahead and go through our table then. If there's nothing else for new items or updates and big wins, we can always come back to it.
Well, I have something.
Yes, please.
So I saw a PR open in contributor tweets. I'll share the link.
Oh,
But I'm not sure who should. I mean, the PR is currently looking for an approve, I guess.
yeah,
So,
me and Chris can do that.
yeah. Okay. I'll be dropping the link in the docs itself.
Okay, sounds good. Also, if we go to the tweet draft PRs, yeah, there's a link to tweet draft PRs in the notes at the bottom of each day. So we can go to the contributor tweets repo, which is where that goes. And then there's a pull request.
The PR is just changing some links.
Okay.
To the README. It's.
I like that you added the Tarva. Is the Tarva even on today? No. But I like that he added the good first issue tag. It looks like someone wanted to help out. Interesting note for our group in this. If we add good first issue, we will attract the attention of people looking for good first issues. That should be obvious. Might be a good way to let people know that a lot of the work we do is very welcoming for newcomers.
One thing I will say, like, having a lot of good first issues, they will probably wind up with like multiple people taking them. So you just kind of have to like check on them every once in a while to see if it's actually done or the people that said they are taking them actually did the thing.
Yeah. Cool. It's a good thing to keep in mind. We mentioned periodically, I think, in the contributor experience group, how good first issue is a great tool for us to use, but it's also underused in the community. And I feel like this is a good example for me of that. Like, I don't think about using good first issue a lot of the time. A lot of the time, the things that we're doing are pretty quick and they don't need a lot of extra help. So that makes sense, but it might also make sense to do things in such a way that we have a little space for someone to join in and help out, because good first issues get snapped up real fast. We used to tweet out the good first issues once a week,
Mm.
and sometimes we just wouldn't have any because they'd all been snapped up that week. And they were never there for more than a week. So good note. Hello, Chris.
Hello. How's everyone?
Doing well. We've gone through most of the notes for this time. We were about to start on the table. That's where we're at.
Okay.
Cool.
Table
So I'll look at
time.
that. Yeah, I'll look at that link later. I guess I should put that in the chat as well. If anyone wants to look at this. Is that the issue? Yeah, that's the issue. And then there's a PR for a new tweet. Or, well, updating broken links, I guess, in this repo, isn't it? Yeah. Updating broken links in this repo. Cool. Look at that later. Don't want to spend too much time on it right now. So we'll head on to the table. Again, feel free to stop me if you have anything else you want to add. Hina is not here again, I think. I was thinking last week at the end of our meeting, actually, the next piece of the GitHub team thing that Hina was working on, it was dependent on the first piece, but the first piece is done. So if someone else wanted to help out with the second piece, we could do that, because I think Hina has been kind of busy lately and hasn't been able to be on. So maybe she would
Well,
appreciate
she
the help.
has some updates on it.
Oh, are these new updates though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll not be able to make the meeting in time on June 10th. The comms GitHub team will be alerted. This is filled out. Oh, lovely. Thank you for pointing that out. I should actually read docs sometimes, huh? So the GitHub team should be alerted when the template is filled out. I think that's the right way to describe what we want, right? Yep. Cool. So we should ping Hina and let her know that that is correct. Team to ping Hina and let her know. Awesome. Thank you. I think that was Deba who pointed that out. All right. So we'll move on to the next item. The contributor tip tweet. Sorry, I didn't reach out to you on this week, Frederico. Was there any movement on this? Did Frederico drop off? Oh, he did. Alrighty then. Well, I'll check in with him later on this then. I don't think there's been any movement on this. I don't remember what we needed. Okay. I think we just needed to get a new PR in, I think. I don't think we've made a new one yet. Checking.
Yeah, looking for the contributor comms team.
No, I'm looking at the contributor tip tweet that we're redoing.
Oh, sorry. I was digging up the team to see if that the status of that PR.
I think it's done. That's what our status says. But that could be incorrect. Looks like that pull request is still active.
Oh, let's see. The comms team one is merged. That is good. I don't know the status of the other one.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check with Frederico on that later so we can move on. It looks like there's an open PR related to it, and I'll work with him to figure out exactly what's going on there later. If we need any help, we'll ping everyone. auto-generating blog tweets. This is just Buffer. We discussed that in the ContribEx meeting. Just need to get that going again. I wouldn't guess there's been any movement on that since Tuesday, Wednesday, one of those meetings.
Yep.
Is that right? Cool. And for background on that, we're working on getting a new tool for managing tweets. The GitHub is awesome, but has some drawbacks. So I'm looking to get this account with the tool called Buffer so that we can deal with some of those gaps that the GitHub has. And we started that process just before KubeCon, thus it kind of got dropped because KubeCon. So we're working on picking that back up. And the one after that is one of those gaps, which is scheduling tweets, because our GitHub repo can't currently do that. So that'll be fixed when we have Buffer as well. So we'll go ahead and skip that item as well. Avinash, I didn't set up a meeting with for role description PR. Sorry about that. Is there anything you want to share in terms of updates there? I know we talked last week about your concepts for the role definition, which I think sound great. We just need to word it up into a PR. And I'm sorry, I didn't schedule that time with you.
I'm actually working on it, and you can expect me sending you the initial part by tomorrow, I guess.
Okay, that works. So we can work on it async like that. Works for me. Thank you, Avinash. Really appreciate your work on that. You've done a lot with tracking down what this role could look like and should look like, and wording that up into something that we can keep around and make into a process. And I really appreciate that.
Also, to add something on that,
Yes,
we are having a community meeting this 16th, I guess.
Oh, right.
So I need to reach out to Laura asking for if some tweets are probably needed to go out. Let's see.
Yeah, that's actually a campaign in progress, kind of, because we've been supporting the community meetings. Is there anything that any action items that you want us to track here for you in terms of doing community meeting things?
Not really. I just wanted to update that I'll be reaching out to Laura.
Cool. Sounds good. And we'll need tweets to promote that, and then whatever else Laura needs us to do. Thank you. All right.
For the last 3 minutes, had computer problems.
Oh, welcome back. There was one item with you which I skipped, which if you want to give any updates on, the contributor tip tweet. I didn't chat with you about that this week.
No, so it's I've been monitoring it, and it's still the same. There are some, as far as I'm able to understand the situation, there are some comments from Josh, I think, in the initial submission by Chris that I think still require some resolution before they get that the PR, before the PR gets accepted, and that is a dependency on the actual tweet. So I'm essentially waiting for that in order to use the same tweet but with an updated address.
Right. We were going to move Chris's blog post on that into the developer site.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I would ask Chris about the status on that, but he has disappeared, and he is just a roaring fire and an AWS logo. So we'll come back to that. Cool. All righty.
Just realized that I had some pending comments on that PR as well that I never actually hit the, finish review button.
Welcome to post KubeCon. Everything has been left dangling for us.
Yep.
Just how that works. Okay. I'm getting echo from someone. Cool.
It was me. Sorry, I'm messing with Pulse audio, and
Gotcha.
it's much more complex than Kubernetes. So
Yeah,
Thanks,
Pulse, the audio chain on Linux is never fun.
Things I'm glad that I don't normally deal with in my day-to-day. Is it the year of the Linux desktop? Is it?
It's been the decades of the Linux desktop. If you believe it strongly enough.
It's the year of the Linux gaming console with the Steam Deck.
That's true.
That's quite true. Yes.
Very true. Yeah, my partner has a Steam Deck. We've been hacking away on that.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I feel vindicated by 20 years of shortcomings in the desktop suddenly becoming mainstream.
Yeah.
I was there before it was cool, so I have that.
That's true. You do have that going for you.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Next thing. Thank you, Avinash, for your work on the events role. Again, can't say it enough. And the next thing is the feature blogs. I was supposed to work on getting those tweets out. I have put it on my to-do list for today because Fridays are the days when I have actual time to do things. And I didn't get it done last week. So I can do that today. If anyone else wants to help out, you're also welcome.
Is that the one around the annual report?
No, this is
No.
the
Okay,
feature blogs of the release.
yeah, right.
Yeah. We have a list somewhere of all the blogs that came out as part of the release feature blogs.
Yep.
And a lot of them came out around that KubeCon time period. So we kind of missed tweeting about them.
Yeah,
so need to catch up on that.
Right.
I can just do that. That'd be the easiest thing. So I have that on my to-do list. That means it will happen today or as soon as I can get to it, at least. Next thing, review repo, look into adding a description of what roles mean. Avinash is already making great progress on that with the events role, which I should reflect here somehow. Oh yeah, it is reflected here. Nice, it's right there. And Hina also wanted to, well, Hina will also be taking a role once we actually define it and put it into the repo. And then there's also the SIG Spotlight process PR that I put in. So that's a repo update as well. Anything else folks want to add to the repo and role updates? We should chat about that this week, Chris. We should chat about that every week.
Until it's done.
Until it's done. Check back in after KubeCon. That is what the note says. So
yeah.
It is now that time. Next one. Updating GitHub repo. I should also put that on my to-do list to actually go over that.
I need to create that PR still.
Okay.
So don't feel bad about that.
Well, there is an issue open about it.
There is an issue,
but not the PR.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I've got to go through and actually do the find and replace. It should take literally like one command. I just have to get like the 5 minutes to do it.
Yeah, which I guess, I mean, we should do after we actually
minutes.
make the change.
Right.
So, and when we do put in that PR to make that change, we'll have to review that. I might change how long it will take to actually get the change done.
That's the thing, right? Like somebody has to go through and double check that marketing team is now contributor comms.
Yeah.
And that hopefully I've caught all the links.
And it's not going to be us because it's going to be someone with greater powers over the GitHub naming structure. And all.
Yeah. Bob, like this is where I would defer to you to be like, who would approve such a PR?
Is it just changing the directory name?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's anyone in the parent owner's file.
Okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
I feel like I should write that down. Anyone in the owner's file is who.
Well, I mean, I should have known that, I feel like.
I know that feels obvious, doesn't it?
I mean, it makes total sense. Duh.
Today we learned.
I know.
Owners files, how do they work?
Yeah,
It's
those are important or
I'm in some
something.
of these things. I should probably know that. It has been a Friday, y'all. It's been a week.
Happy
It's
fifth
only
Monday of
8:30
the
in the
week.
morning.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh,
Cool. It's 8:30 in the morning for me. It's not for them.
oh, it's 11:30 for me. I should be awake by now.
I don't know
Nah, it's Friday.
I don't know if I'm still recovering from KubeCon or what, but like I'm still feeling dead tired.
Yes.
Um,
It took me a week to get
Same.
over the jet lag, and now I
Yes.
have to fly to the East Coast, and I have to get jet lagged again. So
At least that's only a few hours.
yeah, but like when I
Tell you
came
what,
back
though.
from Europe, I went to like East Coast time sleep schedule for a week.
mm,
It was weird. Anyway, Chris.
yeah, it's amazing how 3 hours will throw you off, though, because thinking of waking up at 4 in the morning as opposed to 7, like
Yeah.
what that does to the end of your day.
And Avinash, folks in India, I feel so bad that
know.
you all do this
I
so
know.
late, but I appreciate your time so much. You all have had a day, and it's almost weekend time, or basically weekend time.
It is a weekend time.
You all consider us part of your weekend. I'm honored by that. Cool. Guess we should move on in the table. SIG Spotlight, we already did updates on that, so I'll move on from that. Tarva hasn't joined us, has he? Nope. So I will put that on my to-do list right now to reach out to.
My to-do list right now stuff was my last meeting.
Okay, it is on my to-do list. Folks who are new, this is a thing. When I have to do something, I have to write it down physically or it will not get done. Katakoda review. Federico, you gave us some nice updates on that last time. Avinash had also done some work on that.
From my side, it's very, very, very quick. I shared my comments through Slack with Arshita, and that's pretty much it. I don't have any additional feedback for that. I would say, Avinash, if you could share me the PR that you mentioned last time, or perhaps even to add it to the table items as a reference, because you mentioned that there was a PR associated with this, and with some discussion going on in there, and my Google foo was not enough for me to get there, so.
It's in the docs, in the table itself. Yep.
Oh, so my Google foo was.
Aha, it's not a link.
I just needed to read it, the actual
no, that one is
document
a
better.
link. There were also a couple of things in here that were not links.
So I'll take a better look. Thank you, Avinash.
Thank you, Avinash.
So I added in notes since the Katakoda will be shut down for public June 15th, and the scenarios on katakoda.com/Kate's contributors will not be I guess live after June 15th. I'm not too familiar with the SIG ContribEx scenarios, but I know the ones on the Kubernetes.io will survive past June 15th from O'Reilly.
Cool. So Kubernetes.io is the area of Katakoda that's surviving. So if this, so I guess this one is going into Kate's contributors, or is it set up to go to Kubernetes.io? Do we know? Guessing it's in that PR somewhere. If it's not planning to go into Kubernetes.io, we need to let them know about this and make sure that they get it moved into Kubernetes.io. And if it is already there, then it should be good.
I had a doubt, like, how do we move now? Like, if we get it moved to Kates.io itself, like, we have to get it to Kubernetes/website, or like, how do we make a separate repo under Kubernetes GitHub itself? so that like what I read from the comment of someone from Corelli, they are creating a separate server for Kubernetes, but which GitHub account are they supporting? So that's that I was confused of.
So like the connection between GitHub to the Kubernetes.io Katacoda, right?
Yeah, so that could really needs access to your GitHub thing, so that
that's where it stores the stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So
Gotcha.
if they are allowing a particular organization, so any repo under that organization would stay for that. Like it would work.
Yeah.
So since it's in Kubernetes docs, like Kubernetes 6, if they are allowing in Kubernetes, so we could just get it shifted to.
Ray, you were going to say something?
Oh yeah, I just actually the last part answered my question. If where the current Katacoda scenarios are, and they're in the Kubernetes/SIG, they see it also on the doc.
Okay.
So it would have to be moved to Kubernetes.
Website?
That's what I'm. I don't know if Kubernetes website, but actually I'm not too familiar on how to make sure that the scenarios from Kubernetes/SIG should be saved, if it has to be moved to K website, or if it just has to be moved just to just /Kubernetes, anywhere in /Kubernetes.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's K website, to be honest, just because that's the home of Kubernetes.io. But
Yeah.
They need to be moved, and we need to figure out where they need to be moved to. How do we track that down?
Yes, and also there were, like I was mentioning in that ContribEx meeting, there are some end user based Katacoda scenarios that required to be preserved as well.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we don't support the maintenance and everything. We don't take ownership for that. But if Katacoda shuts down, if there is a chance they are supporting us, we could also keep that, because the Kubernetes playground of Corelli is quite famous in Katacoda. People do use that a lot.
Yeah, that is a good question as well. Like, how does the support of this work going forward? Because I guess that's going to be on us somewhere. I don't know who's managing this change. How that's been worked out.
yeah, the migration was done by O'Reilly, but that's a really good question on how we manage this in the future. So I have some thoughts on it from the SIG docs perspective, but I haven't put anything. I need to spend more cycles on it. But I could find out where in K websites the scenarios are at.
Okay. Has SIG docs been leading that conversation? Or?
So they actually O'Reilly actually reached out. So SIG docs, we went into looking at alternatives to Katacoda, like with Killer Coda, play with Kubernetes, and the creator play with Kubernetes went on a SIG docs meeting as well. Killer.sh and another alternative as well, and then a product manager from O'Reilly reached out about a little bit over a week ago.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay, that's very recent.
Yes, very, very recent. So I still would like to, if when I do have cycles, to POC some alternatives and what that possible migration looks like, and also if there's a cost to that as well, and also see, just in case, because we are dependent on Katacoda now to maintain the infra behind these scenarios. So
that's changing, so we'll have to see how that's changing. Alrighty. If you need any help, any support, let us know.
I found a couple issues about shutting down Katacoda. The one I linked in chat seems to be the most active, but it doesn't talk about anybody reaching out. So,
alrighty.
If we have to pull all the Katacoda stuff, it is what it is.
Not much we can do about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
we still have all the materials, right? Because it's in our GitHub.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to move them to something else, we'd have to reformat them and everything, but at least we still have the content.
We have the content. Yeah.
So it might be worth just shoving them in like an archive or something like that, so they're there for future reference if we ever decide to like re-platform stuff.
Right.
It's a good idea.
And
Is
the creative coder reached out with the migration doc also. So
Okay.
we have a doc on how to migrate from Katacoda
Nice.
to Color Coda. I'll find it.
Is that Frederico? Did you have a
Yeah.
question?
No, I was wondering, is it trivial for us to know what we have in GitHub that is deployed in Katacoda? Is it
No, that's not trivial.
okay?
You
But I
gotta
was
go-
assuming
you gotta
not, but
find it.
maybe I would be surprised.
Yeah, no, there's like any place could have, in theory, a Katacoda scenario in it.
Right.
So that's the big problem, right? Like, this is one of those ones where I like loot through all the repos and then search.
I wonder if that
Yeah.
means that we should send out like a Slack bot message to the SIGs and be like, hey, do you have Katacodas? Because we want to
Do
hear
you
about
even
that.
know
Please
if you
talk to this
do?
person.
So I actually looking
Probably
using
educated,
code
yeah.
search, it doesn't look like
Mhm.
there's that many things that are using
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Good.
Mostly K website.
Makes sense.
There
Makes sense.
is the only thing that we like us under a contributor Katacoda. We should actually let, and then in K test infra, it's not actually something related to us, but JetStack, which essentially helps manage Cert Manager, apparently uses Katacoda. We have some like test grid configs for them.
Oh, I see that. Oh,
I'll
interesting.
just ping them right now.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Also, that cell in the table got gigantic. So I'm going to move these notes about what's going on with the Katacoda deprecation into our regular notes,
Okay.
into updates and big wins, I think.
How do we feel about blog posts that mention we're going to make Katacoda scenarios?
It's
We have
historical.
those.
Okay, fair
Whatever.
enough.
That's true.
That's fine. Okay, I just wanted to be clear about that.
Always good to be clear on things,
Mhm.
especially where deprecations are concerned. Don't we know that here in Kubernetes?
Yeah. Kidding.
All right. Do we want to continue discussing things on Katacoda, or should I move on to the next table item? We can always come back to discuss this more. Certainly an interesting thing that's happening.
That is very, yeah, it's going to be a lot of work at some point.
At some point, and awkwardly timed.
Yeah, forcefully
Like
timed.
it's
It's
good
more
because it's
accurate.
after KubeCon, but bad because it's happening very soon.
5 days.
You know. All right, I'm going to move on to the next item, which is annual report, which is also a big item. I had something I was supposed to do on this, and Pratish here today. No, so it's just me and Avinash, and Avinash is more likely to have actually done things. Today is the day of Avinash thank you songs.
Unfortunately, for this time, I've not done. I almost
Nice.
forgot. Yeah. So,
See,
but
what
yeah,
you did this time was you made me feel better about not getting things done. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But Federico has something which I saw in Slack.
Oh, yeah.
You're back. So you're back into guilt. Okay.
Darn it, Frederico.
Sorry, Kathleen, it was completely unintended.
That's okay. We appreciate your work very much.
No, yeah, but no. What I'm and Avinash, thank you for the reference. And very briefly, what I did was I went through the annual report summary, and instead of making my Emacs org file for my own consumption, I just edited it all on a XMD file.
Oh, lovely. Nice.
And I shared it in the SIG ContribEx Slack channel with some thoughts on what I thought could be interesting tweetable stuff from the annual reports with some examples of possible tweets. And well, it's not filled in its entirety, but it's a structure with a couple of ideas, and that is what the sum of what I did.
Wonderful. Awesome. I've got the link to that. I'll put it in the chat if it's not there already. Oh, unfortunate for Bob. Goodbye, Bob. Bob has been kicked off the island by his cat.
Yes. Ouch. It was not your desk. Where are you supposed to be?
Welcome to the contributor comms meeting. We are very, very serious here.
So serious.
Anyway, I put the link to Frederico's HackMD into the chat, and I'll put that into the notes as well. So you said these are suggestions for things that we should tweet and promote, right?
It's my very personal view on going through the document and trying to identify how could we create, I assumed a series of tweets, not one or two, but a series of tweets that would focus on it. It's not easy because the report itself, being a report that summarizes a lot,
yeah,
everything is important in a way.
Exactly. So that is our issue with it.
Yeah. So what I've done was to immediately create some tweets for those that I thought were obvious, and my main doubt is if we should, for example, in the new features, stuff like that, go into one-to-one tweet by feature, or just say something more general, saying there was a lot of new enhancements and great improvements in the last year. Check them out all in the annual report. Maybe this is enough. So, and I've added that there as well. But it's meant as a discussion platform more than anything.
That's very much needed.
I feel for the Kate's contributors, we should basically focus first on the help wanted things, because that needs to go out first. And then basically the enhancement part and all those things that usually get tweeted by Kubernetes IO Twitter. Like recently you must have seen the feature blogs, all of the features blog that get released gets out
as part of the
that's
release
end user part. Yes, and we usually focus on the upstream thing. So I feel the help wanted sections to go first and as soon as possible, because help is really needed. Because I see on the release side also, there's a lot of places where we need help, and that's very critical at some part of the project. We are like lacking reviews and all those things.
Cool. Yeah, that's a recurring theme, is we need to make sure that we're promoting the help wanted section. That's always top priority.
And it is the same way you do it. Like Federico has, I read that HackMD. It's the same. You have the SIG names. Just in the help wanted section, there is part of the things. You just put it as tweet under this HackMD file and get a PR started. Like get an issue started in the contributor tweets, and we go by merging it.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, go on. Go ahead.
One kind of nice thing in this is you've got them all listed out here, which I mean, we could also go to the annual report and do, but I think it's kind of nice that you have a list of all the ones that have help wanted in the
based on the annual report. So this is
in the report.
Yeah,
so we want to do like a tweet for each one of these. So now we have a list to go from, and we could assign based on that list if we wanted to.
And that is actually the question that I have in the help wanted initiatives. Do we want a one-on-one or not? I made a couple of two tweets suggestions in the beginning, which are quite broad, so that would cover everything. But if we want to go on one-on-one, then yes, these are the ones that are mentioned in the annual report.
There's room for both broad and specific.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we should do both. So I went ahead and went into our campaigns in progress section of our notes from today's meeting. And so you can see there the list per Frederico's document of which SIGs have help wanted in the annual report. So which SIGs we need to tweet about. So if folks want to, I don't know, should we try to claim them in here? Should we just have people have at it?
I think last time what we did is I have the document, the Google Docs, where we just went on put each of the
that's
SIGs
right.
And the raw text and assign people then and there, and they just went there and changed it as a tweet, like the 280 characters things. And then
good idea.
Anyone who was free out of the day could just put up the issues, because the issue thing is just you need to copy paste the material that's present in the docs or the hackmd file now we are creating. So I'll try to find that doc. I don't know where that doc went, but I'll put it there as a reference. And but it gets done very fast. Like it usually takes a week or two to get it done.
Sounds good. Let's do something like that. We only have 5 minutes left in this meeting, of course, so we won't do it right this second, but we'll let everyone know on Slack about that, and we'll sync up on it again next week. That sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
Cool. We'll sync on this next week. To work with Deba to set up doc based on previous example. Excellent. I forgot that you all did that last time. I wasn't really involved with that, but
yeah, it all started with Paris. She wanted it to be get tweeted, and we just made a talk and just tweeted all
Paris is good like that. That is where our whole group came from, was Paris.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the only other two items in our table, one is Ray working on reviewing the APAC Meet Our Contributors blog, which he already updated us on. Is there an update on that from someone else? Okay. He already updated us on that. That's in updates and big wins. Guess that's done, and I can go ahead and remove that line from the table. I put a thing on my list to update this table after we're done with this meeting, so I'll leave that for a second. And then the new Slack channel creation thing.
Do we want to stick with the naming convention, which was, fuck, I forgot.
Contributor comms.
Contributor, well.
We discussed it last time. I think I must have put the notes about that into the notes of the day instead of into the thing.
So it needs to just be like SIG-ContribEx-comms, I think is what Bob said.
Yeah, something like that.
Cool. I will find the PR and make that a reality.
Sounds good. SIG name subproject, something like that. Cool. Yeah. If you need help with that, let us know. I know that we had a significant discussion about that last week, and now I don't know where the notes for it are because I didn't put it where I should have.
I think we had it in the ContribEx meeting.
Ah, that's why.
Yes.
There you go. I was like, I know I wrote notes about this in a meeting. Now it makes sense.
God, I'm surprised I even remembered that.
Because I thought it was Bob who told us about it, but he wasn't in this last meeting. So I was also trying to work that out. So now things make sense.
It all comes together.
Okay. So that's our last table item. We have 2 minutes left. Does anyone want to talk about anything with these last couple of minutes?
So I have added the docs in the document as a reference if you want to check in today's meeting.
4 different PRs. Which docs?
It's like in the under the annual report help wanted section. I've added a reference doc for the last time. What we used.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
So.
And did you add that in the table or in the notes?
I added in the notes. Sorry,
okay.
I'm using it in my phone. My laptop just died.
That's a-okay. We had a lot that we discussed today, so I have it on my to-do list to go through and kind of sort this out and clean it up. Thank you very much for finding the link. So we'll add that link to the old doc from the annual report tweets to the annual report table. Sounds good. Anything else? Why will the name change be 4 different PRs? I mean,
Because
I shouldn't
it's
be
in 4
surprised.
different repos.
Of course it is. All right.
Yeah. It's mentioned in, so there's the actual like sigs.yaml file. Remember,
Yeah.
we have to change it in there. That's
Right.
going to be fun when that happens. And like having all 4 of these somehow magically happen all at once, never going to happen. So we're going to have some funky state at some point where things aren't working, but then they will eventually, kind of thing.
Luckily, I don't think people care too terribly much.
I don't think so either. What I'd like to do is like, well, I'll think through the strategy of it all, but basically is I'll start creating PRs and putting them on hold and then unholding them when like all 4 are created.
I think you could get down with an umbrella issue and make some radio buttons with the link, like this file needs to change, and when it's all done, you could get it almost.
Yeah, I've got the gist in there, and that lists all the files. So, God, what was I thinking? Yeah, like when I create the PRs, I need to actually bullet them and then watch them change magically through the powers of GitHub.
Cool. And we are at time, so I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording. Thanks everyone for joining us today.